Laoshi Lawrence McElroy here in this live series. We do Mondays and Tuesdays for the greater community in this time of COVID-19, but also specifically 10 a.m. on Mondays for those folks who have attended our Sachem Public Library program, ongoing program, which is currently suspended. The library is closed and all community programs are canceled for a while. Tuesday morning, we do it at 10:15, again, for the greater community, but specifically because that was the start time of our ongoing Tuesday morning class for West Babylon Public Library for those folks who have had their program suspended in this time of COVID-19. So here we are. Good morning, Colette. So a couple of things. One, hopefully everything works out this morning. If you were tuning in last Tuesday morning for the West Babylon session, had a little technical glitch on the Facebook side. I really don't know what it was. I was still streaming video and audio, but I had no image of myself. And I have audio on my side turned down, so there's no feedback. But anyway, so when I couldn't figure out what was going on, the expression on my face was priceless, by the way. If you haven't seen the end of the first video from the last Tuesday morning, you should look at it because I just look like an idiot. But I did go back on and I finished that session. So if you were only there for the first session until I killed it just abruptly, there's a second video that runs, I think, another 5 to 10 minutes to finish that particular exercise. Tai Chi Shigong, reeling silk, rotating the ball. So anyway, so there's that. So I hope we survive without a technical glitch today. So there's that. I also want to mention, I did hear from Sachem Public Library over the weekend, and the library remains closed until further notice, but they have already extended the cancellation of their community services programs through July. So we're going to be here for a while. We've already been here for a while. Our first live session on a Monday morning for Sachem Public Library was March 23rd. So, wow. So here we are. Today, we're going to do a little warm-up, a little stretch. It's Water Tiger School favorite. That's not a bad thing, I don't think. And then we're going to play a little bit with variety is the spice of Tai Chi. And we'll talk about that a little bit, maybe after the warm-up and have some fun with it. Well, actually, no, I'm going to do it now. So I have mentioned in the past, and we've done a couple of these little sessions, and we've done some YouTube, at least one YouTube video based on what at Water Tiger School we call Tai Chi Lottery. And Tai Chi Lottery is to give you a certain perspective as you play your form or floor exercise. And we have a bunch of them. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Every once in a while, somebody suggests a new perspective. Hi, Carol. And we'll add it. And sometimes somebody suggests a new perspective and I don't write it down, and it hasn't made the list yet. But today will be this one. I don't know if you can read that. I can, and I don't even have my glasses on, and it's Molasses. So once we finish our warm-up, we're going to be playing with really slowing things down, which is really the reason I chose this particular t-shirt this morning, because 9 times out of 10, when I move really, really slowly, when I lead really, really slowly, I hear about it. But it's a good way to add some variety to your Tai Chi. Again, we add variety because we like to change the way that we view our art. Whenever we change the way in which we're playing what it is we're doing, our floor exercise or form, we learn something deeper about it. So there you go. Little introduction to really slowing down your Tai Chi play. And we'll take a couple of different things that we do to slow down. Let's start with a little shake. Breathe. Relax. release, you know the drill. So I'll probably back up so you can see as much of my arms as possible. But what we are going to do today as our warm-up is our Tai Chi Shigong Stretch, the basic edition. There is an advanced edition. I hardly do it anymore. It's because most people find it challenging. There are some things to remember. One, for part of this exercise, we're going to be doing something that we don't do in the Tai Chi forms, which is we're going to take our shoulders out of alignment with our hips. That puts a lot of spiral pressure on the spine. Be very, very careful. Not only the spine, but the abdominal cavity as well. So if you have spinal issues, abdominal issues, a few years ago, I had people in public classes and on the mat all at the same time who had had hernia operations and they had the abdominal mesh. It can dislodge that. Something that always concerns me because of the pressure it puts on the abdominal cavity is it can also disrupt a pregnancy in its early stages. And, you know, I never know if I'm, you know, in the early stages of pregnancy or not. But anyway, so be very, very careful with that. What I would like you to do is, you know, as little as possible, but still taking them out of alignment. But perhaps, you know, you have fused vertebrae. Perhaps you have Harrington rods. Those are the stainless steel rods that hold the spine in place. So you can't actually twist. What you do there is an isometric exercise. You imagine somebody's holding the back of the shoulder toward which you're turning and the front of the shoulder, which is moving forward. And you create an isometric action without actually turning the torso that gives you an internal feeling that is the same as taking the shoulders out of alignment with the hips. So be very, very careful with that. But how we take the shoulders out of alignment with the hips, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's sort of gray on gray. So that isn't really going to work this morning. But the hips stay still. So as I twist, my left hip stays to the left side, my right hip stays to the right side. I'm not bringing my hips with. That ruins the stretch. I'm going to come up really close to the camera so you can see if I turn, you might be able to catch some of the wrinkles in the shirt and the hips aren't moving. But if I turn with the hips, the surface of the shirt stays smooth. You want that squeeze in the center. So there's that caveat. The other, there are two more. The other one is that at the very beginning of this stretch, the hands are going to go up over the height of the head, but in the plane of the body. And while they're going up and up and turning palm as far up as possible, we settle the weight into the balls of the feet. So you might be able to see that my heels have sort of slightly left the training mat. But even as they do, and even if I get a little dramatic here and raise them as high as I can with my balance where it is this morning, notice I am not gaining any height on the Water Tiger School sign behind me. I am absorbing the rise of the heels with a deeper bend of the knee. So I maintain the same height. There's a tendency when people sort of follow the direction or sort of hear the direction as raise your heels to actually come up on the heels, and they move their center of gravity, they pull their center of gravity up, they lift their center of gravity up and move it forward so they fall over. You want to set down sort of as you stand up. I also don't want to sink. It's not doing this either. All the little oompa going on there. The third, the last thing, is once the arms are in this position, you can sort of see my head is right at the center of that more or less circular configuration of the arms. So as I twist, that doesn't change. And as I tilt, that doesn't change. There's a tendency in the twist to bring your arm, their biceps, closer to that side of the head. And the same thing here. You don't want to do that. You want to keep that same configuration. So there you go. I'm going to grab a drink. Because as usual, even while home isolating, I am thirsty in the morning. So, our Tai Chi Shigong Stretch, we're going to do 3 rounds. First round, I'm just going to talk about the physicality of it, sort of direct the physicality of it. Second round, I'll keep doing that, but I'm also going to add a suggested breath pattern. What that means is breathe when you have to, right? And the third round, I'll try to stay as quiet as Lawrence possibly can stay in any given amount of time. So we're going to interlock the fingers, palms up. So the fingers are on the outside, not the inside of the palms. You can cross either, there's no set, is the right thumb over the left thumb or is the left thumb over the right thumb. Though if you normally do left thumb over the right thumb, you might want to just change it up and do the right thumb over the left thumb just for difference, right? It might feel weird, and if it feels so weird, it seems disruptive. Don't do it for now, but eventually it should feel the same with either thumb in front. So again, breathe when you have to. The elbows were shoulder wide, feet parallel. We stay in vertical alignment, our basic vertical alignment, chin slightly dropped down, crown point of the head held to the heavens, base of the pelvic bowl weighted toward the earth, anchored toward the earth. Our elbows bend, the hands stay in the front plane of the body. See, I'm not moving far out away from the body or any closer to it. The wrists rotate when they have to, and as they continue their rise, settling the weight into the balls of the feet. Now, again, you don't really have to raise your heels. All I want is the emphasis of the weight in the balls of the feet. Keep breathing. Settle the heels back down, not rocking back, but reestablishing connection to the earth, ball, instep, heel. And twist. Hips stay still. Left hip to the left side of the room, right hip to the right side of the room. And release. If you reach your range of motion, keep breathing. Before I reach mine, that's fine. You get to hang out and sort of explore the stretch. I have to keep moving until I feel a stretch. And release. And arc. Keeping the face, the torso fully forward. I'm not twisting into this arc, and it's the same thing. If you reach your range of motion before I do, then you get to hang out and sort of explore the stretch. I have to keep moving, and who knows, maybe there's somebody watching who's more flexible than I am, and they have to keep going a little bit. Release, and that's it. That's the round. So the hands drop down. Wrists rotate so the palms return to upright. And that's one of our 3 rounds. So breathe when you have to, but it might be an inhalation as the hands begin to rise. It might be an exhalation as you settle the weight into the balls of the feet and the hands are continuing to rise. It might be an inhalation as you reestablish contact, ball, instep, heel. An exhalation, but again, breathe when you have to. As you twist, hips still. The rotation is above the hips. Inhale, perhaps, as you come back to center. Exhale, twisting to the other side, hips still, left to the left, right to the right. Inhale, returning to facing the front. Torso, face stays flat. I can see you. You should be able to see me throughout this arc, I should say. Throughout the arc, you should be able to see me. And upright, maybe on an inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhalation. Inhalation. And exhalation. One more round. Inhale. The torso, traditional Chinese medicine, Qigong, Tai Chi. Exhale. Is known as the Sanjiao, the triple burner. And as many of you know, my Chinese is awful, so I don't really know if I just said triple burner or said something else when I say Sanjiao. Inhale. Exhale, and it's so named because the meridians, the acupuncture points, and the actual organs, inhale, of the torso are related to 3 processes. Exhale, respiration, digestion, and elimination. And as we move in this way, twist to put that spiral Stretch, inhale in the torso, in the Sanjiyo, exhale, and then arc to create this extension stretch on the outside and compression stretch on the inside. Inhale. We're massaging, inhale, all the internal components of the Sanjiyo, thus increasing the flow of blood and qi, inhale, through the torso and improving exhalation, inhalation, and exhale. Since that was round 3, the hands are going to separate left to the left, right to the right, improving the functionality of our respiration, our digestion, and our elimination. Find your left foot. The left foot is the one that's going to move. The right foot's the one that's going to stay still. The hands as if on top of a beach ball filled with helium. As the hands float up, out, away from the body. Vertical alignment settles over the ball of the right foot as we settle into the right leg. The hands draw in. That should be connected to the foot drawing in. The heel's still in the air. The hands go down. The heel goes down either by lengthening the body or shortening it. Then by the reverse action, if you've lengthened, you shorten. If you've shortened, you lengthen. That last physical motion brings the hands into the belly. And there's your warm-up, Tai Chi Shigong Stretch. So, you can, you couldn't see it from the distance that I was standing away from the camera because it's light gray on light gray. But if you have like a white string in your sweatpants or something, you can pull it out, let it dangle. It shouldn't move as you twist. It should stay in one place. If you have slash pockets, I have, right? You can see the cut pocket there. As I do a twist one direction or the other, that pocket should stay still. You can, if you have a chair that's the right height. Now this is a little bit low for me, so I'm going to have to squat down a little bit. So I really want a higher chair, but I place the chair where both sides of the glutes can press slightly into the chair. And then when I'm doing that twist, I shouldn't lose pressure. If I twist and turn my hips, I get more pressure on my right hip and I lose all the pressure on the left. I want to feel that pressure throughout. So that's one of the ways you can sort of play with being sure that your hips are still in your Tai Chi Shigong Stretch, or white crane cools or wings, or some of the other things that we do when we tell you to keep the hips still. So, slowing down, molasses. Now, we want to eventually play our forms and our walking exercises pretty slowly. When we close something like in this program, in the Sachem Public Library program, and the West Babylon Public Library program for that matter, our focus is the 24 posture form. And for those who have closed for the first time, when they close for the first time, they're probably playing their form anywhere from 4 to 5 minutes from beginning to end, maybe even a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit longer. But eventually that form should come in on a regular basis at about 7.5 minutes. The long form, when I first closed the long form 3 decades ago at Black Dragon School, it was, and I didn't have a leader when I closed it, and when I was playing it, I think I was at home. I don't think I was in the studio playing, because most of the time we played the long form and played it together. So I had somebody, Mesmer Sifu was leading. I closed on my own in 12 minutes. And in our lineage, our long form should close at 20 minutes. So in those early days, I was faster than I should have been. So we want to slow down to a certain pace. But when I'm talking about playing the molasses version, I'm talking about playing in a super slow kind of way, which is challenging on our balance, our coordination, the whole 9 yards. So if we take a basic floor exercise, like our walking the rails, and just as a reminder, walking the rails, our feet stay parallel and shoulder wide. Our hands are in one of 5 places. We do the belly, like how we ended our Tai Chi Shigong Stretch. We can go behind the back, create a hook with one hand. Set the other one in it, either in front or behind. Left can be over right or right can be over left. You can use sort of the dangly hand version, but we don't just let the hands dangle. They're not just dead at the sides. We activate the palms. And notice in that activation of the palms, I'm not talking about activating the elbow fold. I'm talking about only activating the wrists. So the hands float. You can also do that downward position with lightly closed fists, wrists forward. Now, FYI, if I do the wrists forward, you'll notice my arms pull out away from my body. That's my muscle and bone structure. I'm not doing that on purpose. So if you do that and your hands don't move, which mine didn't used to, a little over a decade ago, I'd do that and my hands would be in exactly the same spot, regardless of palm down or palms forward with lightly closed fists. But notice my wrists are forward here. I'm not doing this. Right, again, the elbows aren't active. As soon as you do this, might as well be doing, biceps curls with Tony Horton and P90X. Boom. Or my teaching position, most of the time, with my hands on my hips. And just FYI, notice that my elbows are more or less the exact same direction as my hips. I'm not doing the chicken wing thing with the elbows back or collapsing my chest and having the elbows forward, but they're right out to the side. And the way I do the hand position, I use that personal pronoun I on purpose, right? Because some people might be more comfortable like this with the tiger's mouth between the thumb and the index finger on the top of the hip and the palms not really solid to have their elbows out. I like my palms solid and resting on the surface of my hips and my fingertips down. So those are the hand positions: belly, back, palm down, lightly closed fists, hands on the hips. And all we do is we pretend we have these two railroad tracks, one for the right foot, one for the left. We settle the weight into the right foot first, crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot. You can bring the foot in and step it out. Bring the foot in and step it out. Oh, I love pollen in the spring. That was my facial expression, if you caught that. And it's sort of working on releasing the sneeze without actually sneezing. Or you can float the left foot over the left railroad track and the right foot over the right railroad track. Since I'm cutting off my head here, I'm going to do my little casual closing, connecting the whole body and the movement through it all. And a little return to the hands on the belly. So some of you may have thought, oh, that was the super slow version. Nope. That was kind of the standard version of walking the rails. So when we really slow it down, we're really going to slow it down. So we settle the weight into the right foot. And we start that first step. Still stepping. Oh, there are the heels on the ground. And then we feel the foot. You may find, if you are doing this with me, that you have to step a little bit shorter so you can be in that leg for a little bit shorter amount of time. Breathing. Relaxing. You need to touch down in the middle of the step. That's okay. This is hard. Only going to take 4 steps here for the last one. I'm going to float that foot so you can see what that is like. And a little closing. Again, slowly pressing that heel down, lengthening the body. And slowly bringing the hands into the belly. So rails, the molasses version. Remember, with rails, we up the game. Not so much in the public classrooms, but in the studio, on the mat, and remotely these days. Right? We add rotations. We have a ball that is about the size of your torso. Right? You were taking part in the West Bab presentation last week. You know all about this ball that rotates. Now the ball in the reeling silk exercise goes three-dimensionally. The ball in walking the rails exercise only turns vertically. So a single rotation, we refer to a single rotation as one exchange of the hands. So if my right hand's on top, my left hand's on bottom, we call this little half turn of the ball a full rotation. So that was one rotation to get the left hand on top and right hand on bottom. This is one rotation coming back. And if we're on our game, the ball should be the same size here as it is here. I'm not doing this, not doing that. I'm not doing, oops, I didn't do that very well. Boom. Still sort of going on one side and the other, but losing the reality of the ball. The ball gets this small here, but it really should be the same size throughout. So if we add one rotation per step, so every time the left foot is weighted, the left hand's on top. Every time the right foot is weighted, the right hand's on top. In this slow version, we start to play a little bit more with how the upper body and the lower body needs to maintain their timing, their connection to one another, their symbiotic relationship, even as we move super slow. So settling the weight into the right foot, the right hand starts to find the top of the ball, the left hand starts to find the bottom of the ball. And just 4 steps here. Reaching out. Filling that foot, still filling the foot, still emptying the back, still moving into my left hand on top of the ball and the right hand on the bottom. Taking the next step. Vertical alignment, crown point of the head over the base of the pelvic bowl, sliding in over the ball of the right foot. Here's step 3. And here's our final step in the Molasses version of walking the rails with 1 rotation. I'm going to close a little bit differently here. Still going to release that ball, still going to bring in the back foot slowly. Still going to have the heel in the air, but this time I'm going to sink down to press the heel down. And then lengthen to bring the hands into and over the acupuncture point for the Xia Dantian, the lower field of elixir. So there you go. Rails with 1 rotation. You can do that with a floor exercise. You can pull out the postures from the 24 or the postures from whatever your form are that at least at first makes perfect sense to do as a walking exercise. You know, our go-to has always been in the sequence since March 23rd to just the first formal posture in the form, parting while the horse is mane, to go there. Well, within the form, it is a walking exercise. You do 3 steps. Brush, knee, step, and strike. Repulse the monkey. All very much covering distance. Wave hands like clouds in sort of a walk. Eventually, you can find ways to do postures that you wouldn't think are a walking exercise. Snake creeps down, single whip, white crane, maybe in combination with brush knee. So you do brush knee, white crane, white crane, go back and forth between the 2 sides. That's a whole nother ball game. Tune in tomorrow morning at 10:15 for that one. And do a walking exercise. Maybe not the form itself, but it's the same principle. You know, our parting wild horse's mane starts with forming the ball, creates the step, And then our parting the wild horse's mane, the fingertips pass very closely, very close together. And we end with the left hand or the upper hand right in front of the center of the chest. So center of the chest is sort of right between the U and the D in the dude part of the bad dude, right? So my La Gong point is right there. My arm is not overextended. It's not underextended. It's a nice comfortable distance. The shoulder is dropped. The elbow is slightly down. And the other hand, you can see, hopefully, it's in the front plane of the body, palm down and fingertips forward. So that's our parting the wild horse's mane. So if we put that in a walking exercise, slowly, remember our four stance, by the way, too, I should probably review this just to make sure. Our heels are still shoulder wide. It's like I'm walking the rails. The back foot is out at around a 45-degree angle. Why does Lawrence say that? Because some people are comfortable inside the 45. Some people are comfortable a little outside of the 45. In our formal stance, if you're at a 90-degree angle with that foot, chances are you're either Reed Richards, Plastic Girl, or your knee is not happy with you, right? But somewhere around the 45, the other foot forward, but still on its railroad track, and the hips are square. So this is another instance where my left hip is to the left side of the classroom and my right hip is to the right. I'm not cornered out. I'm not angled out. 70% of the weight on the front leg in four stance, 30% on the back, but it can drift. It can be 60-40. You really don't want to go much below 60% of the weight on the front leg. It can go 80-20. You don't really want to go more than 80% of the weight on the front leg. You want to make sure the front toes are forward or in to protect the knee. If you're in four stance and those front toes are out, your knee's going to be in trouble. To be absolutely safe, knee over ankle, just like if you were doing a lunge. But for us, knee over top of the foot is fine. We just don't want to push that knee over the toes or beyond the toes. Or once again, our knee will sing an ugly tune. And we might need a referral to, I always say St. Charles orthopedists, they're really, really good. But let's not give them any business. So we're going to get into this in a Tai Chi-like fashion as we're moving slowly. So we're going to bounce the weight into the left. We're going to turn that right foot out to the 45. We're going to start forming the ball. And ideally, by the time the ball is actually there, the foot is down to catch the weight as we begin that turn forward. Now we're just going to do parting the wild horse's mane. We're going to turn it into a walking exercise. So we're going to take 4 steps. But you can play your form to date in this fashion. Release that little bounce back. Ball of the foot comes up off the ground as you start to turn slightly back in the direction from whence you came. Pivot, keeping that right knee exactly where it is, pointed the same direction as the right toes. Opening up the quad like the pages of a book. Turning that left foot out to the 45. And slowly begin filling that left foot. By the time the ball is formed, ideally, the right foot is at the right railroad track. And turning to fill the foot. So when it comes to the 24, we've played a Molasses version of the 24 in the studio. Bounce back. This is 3 of our 5 count of our Tai Chi walk. Pivot. Right hand starting to go to the top of the ball. Left hand starting to move in toward the bottom of the ball. That was only 2 steps. Is it noon yet? A little wobbly this morning. Here's 3. We're going to 4. Anyway, remember the 24 at performance pace, we said somewhere between 7 and 7.5 minutes. We've averaged between 15 and 20 for the 24 in playing the Molasses version. Last step. Now, please keep in mind that this is my slow pace, and I also have to point out, well, I don't have to, my ego does, that as I said, I'm a little bit wobbly this morning, so I'm actually moving a little bit faster than I might otherwise be moving. However, I am using I and me on purpose because, says the headless Tai Chi player, that's my slow pace. Your slow pace may be quicker, and that's okay. So keep that in mind. You don't have to be as slow as I'm going. You can be slower. You can be quicker. Find the pace that works for you, that challenges you, challenges your perception, but don't just go sort of kind of slow and just because you can do it. Find that line between, yes, I can do this, and wow, I'm sort of on the verge of falling over. And you may not get through the whole form if you want to do the form from beginning to end in that pace. And that's okay too. But experience the flow, maybe the slow. Maybe you get through half of it and it's like, oh my God, my legs are killing me. I'm starting to fall over the place at this pace. Maybe speed up and finish the form, maybe close right there. But then the next time, you know, the slow practice comes up in your practice, in your play rotation, start at the point where you couldn't finish and move a little bit deeper into the form. So I want to give one more example of moving slow. I don't know, are we at like 3 hours now? And that is the little breathing set that we do at the end of most all of our classes, and both on the mat and remotely in the studio, and in most all of our public classes, at least the longer term public classes. We do this little 10-piece Tai Chi Shigong breathing set, which is a different Tai Chi Shigong set than I pulled stuff for World Tai Chi Day on April 25th for the live session that morning. And we do what we refer to as a time expanded version of the breathing set on a regular basis in this program, in the Sachem Public Library program. But there, we set a pace that brings us in what normally takes, 3 to 5 minutes at the end of class, really should take 20. But we bring it in at somewhere between, if I'm moving relatively quick, 25, but usually closer to 35 or 40 minutes. But what I'm going to demonstrate this morning, what I'm going to lead this morning, is a pace that's going to put you at a little bit more. Just looking at, okay, that's not about us. Message popped up, so I wanted to take a look. Anyway, I'm going to close that. Anywho, I'm going to set a pace here that would bring the 10-piece Tai Chi Shigong breathing set more into the 50, 60, 70-minute mark. And I'm not going to do anything more than the first repetition, only the first repetition of the first posture of movement of the breathing set. And our breathing set is the same as meditation. We're shoulder wide, feet are parallel or as close to parallel as possible. The knees are open, the tailbones drop down, slid forward. That idea of the perineum being anchored toward the earth. The chest is sunk, the back is rounded, the chin from parallel, slight tuck down. So the crown point of the head, the Bach way, the 100 convergences held to the heavens. The Hu Yin, the bottom of the sea, anchored toward the earth. The first posture is actually stand still to regulate the breath. We start here, but that's not a movement, a posture of movement. It's a posture of stillness. The first posture of movement is expand the chest to cleanse the body. So when we're moving really, really slow, you breathe when you have to. You still need to know that in this movement, up is the moment of preparation and down is the moment of execution. So this is the compression of qi to the Xia Dan Tian, and this is the extension of qi, regardless of where you are in the breath pattern. But again, molasses version. So breathe when you have to. The hands release from the belly, and they begin to fall. They're still falling. They're still falling. They're still falling. They bounce. They're still bouncing. They're still bouncing. Wrists rotate, the palms start more or less in sort of an outward position. So as the arms begin to cross and rise, they are leading in an upward direction. Breath and movement together, regardless of the slow, to cleanse the lungs and the body of stagnant air and stagnant qi. One of the challenges of the slow, not only in the breathing set, but in our floor and form play, is maintaining fluidity, still rising, by the way, of movement. The wrists are rotating, so the palms stay in sort of the nose of an airplane. I'm still focusing on imagining that the palms are leading and the Laogong points are leading the movement. There can be a tendency as we move slow to sort of tick like the second hand of a clock. And we seek to smooth out those rough edges. Almost the pinnacle of the rise, the hands separate from one another. Left leading out to the left, the palm, right sort of leading out to the right as they begin to arc out. Keep breathing, don't hold your breath. And down. Expand the chest to cleanse the body. Almost a third of the way down. Again, we're just doing one repetition of what is normally 3. I meant to see when we started so I could time this out. But chances are that this single repetition at this pace is probably unfolding across the same time frame as normally 3 repetitions during our normal time expanded breathing set that we do at the end of one of our 8-week sessions at Sachem Public Library. So you can sort of begin to see and feel, since we're only going to do one as the hands descend, what it may be like to experience a 50, 55, 60 plus minute water tiger Tai Chi Shigong breathing set. The fingertips turn forward. And keeping with the theme of slow, up, out, away from the body as the vertical alignment settles over the ball of the right foot and the body settles into the weight into the right leg. You may have to drag that foot in at this point in the morning. Set it down. Rest down. I feel like I'm moving faster now than I did and expand the chest to cleanse the body, so I apologize for that. And once again, back to lengthening my body. So I have some sort of movement at the end to bring my hands to my belly. And there you go. Variety is the spice not only of life, but of Tai Chi and of your play. Change things up. By the way, not sure if we'll do a workshop on this. We may indeed on one of our Monday or Tuesday mornings. I might do it as a YouTube channel. But just as there is molasses, there's quicksilver, which is moving as fast as you possibly can through your form or floor exercise. Still maintaining the Tai Chi principles. So there is that. So once again, thanks. Hope you had a good time. I hope you were challenged. I hope you learned something. And we'll see you again. Keep washing your hands. Keep not touching your face if you haven't washed your hands. If you go outside, wear a mask. And listen to, the healthcare professionals and the scientists as to when we should really be taking the next step. So thanks again. Ta.